And
Thank you for having me. I'm doing very well.
it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm gonna let you quickly introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you yet. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Jason. I live in Port Coquitlam in Canada and BC. It's just kind of maybe an hour outside of Vancouver.
Mhm.
Um, Going on 38 years old, kind of retired pro rugby player who maybe 6 years ago kind of turned to the ergs after I stopped playing rugby due to injury.
Mhm.
And yeah, so over the last maybe 6 years or so, I've you know learned to, I guess, master the ergs a little bit. I guess it's just been kind of taking up all my time, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the community that the Concept Two has created, and yeah, so that's kind of what I've been doing, and that's who I
Yeah,
am.
that's pretty awesome. We're definitely going to come back to the ergs. Yeah, Poco. I lived in Vancouver for seven
Oh no
years.
way!
That's where I met my wife.
Oh,
She's from Parksville on the island.
oh yeah, yeah. I've got some family there as well.
Okay, yeah. So
That's
she grew
cool.
up there, and we lived in Vancouver. I had a good friend who, well, she's probably still there, Caroline Mundell. She's got a CrossFit gym in CrossFit Poco, I think. I'm not sure.
You know what? There's a couple CrossFit gyms here. Actually, part of my job, I go and inspect businesses
Okay,
for fire code violations. But there's one. You know what? It could be here. I think it's called Sheepdog now.
okay,
Sheepdog CrossFit. It's like the biggest one we have here, and it's quite popular.
okay.
Yeah, I guess I'll try and look her up when I go back to the office on Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah. Caroline, she's the best. I worked for her. She has well, I haven't spoken to her in a long time, so I don't know if she still runs the place. But she was running CrossFit Port Coquitlam, if I'm not mistaken, and then she also had a function health and function and health fitness something downtown, some kind of boutique
Okay.
private gym, and I worked there as a PT, and yeah, just great person to work for in
Yeah.
general. But I was like, oh shit, I should have known you when I was there, because I could have, you could have
Well,
taught me
when
a
were
couple
you
things.
here?
Hmm?
When were you here? Like how long
we
ago?
left we left Canada almost 4 years ago now.
Okay. Yeah. I moved to Poco maybe 5 years ago. So yeah, we would have maybe crossed paths there for a little bit, I guess. So that's
Cross
cool.
cross paths. So you said you played rugby professionally. Where did you play?
So like I guess a long story short, I went to university in BC here, SFU, Simon Fraser University. And I played football there actually, for American football,
Mhm.
and so I graduated, and I was going to go into a career of accounting. And anyways, thankfully, my athletic ability gave me the opportunity to pursue sporting afterwards, and I had rugby as a background going through high school and whatnot. I did play while I was still at university,
Yeah.
and one thing led to another, and the national program or the Canadian coach approached me and asked me if I wanted to come out and move out to Victoria, actually, which is
Hmm.
on the island just off of, as you know, but maybe your viewers don't. But I need to do the national training program there.
Okay.
I did, and luckily enough, I was able to kind of, I don't know, progress and get better. And I made the national team for the 2011 World Cup in New
Nice.
Zealand. And then from there, I signed a contract actually in France, and ended up in France actually for like 4 years, and then went down to New Zealand for 6 months, and back to France for another 2 years. So yeah, bounced around there. So yeah, it's quite a journey. It's pretty fun, and yeah, it's good.
Where were you in France?
So the first town I went to was Aurillac, which is about 2 hours, I guess, south of Clermont-Ferrand.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I got spent 2 years there, and then I spent a year in La Rochelle,
Yeah.
which is like, I didn't like the coach, but I loved the city, loved the team. It was like if I could move anywhere in France, that would probably be La Rochelle. It's this beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
city. Yeah, and then
Okay.
went to New Zealand for 6 months in Napier and played for a team there. And then I came back to France to Agen
Mhm.
for another 2 years. And then that's where I called it quits after that.
Yeah. I'm in Switzerland, and I do travel quite a bit to France for seminars and whatnot. I was in Brittany not too long ago, so it's not right by La Rochelle, but it's on the same coast. So I saw,
Yeah. I love the west coast of France. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was nice. It's a long drive from Switzerland, but it was definitely worth it. And
I wish I could be speaking French for your viewers, but my French is not very good.
That's fine. I keep saying to all the coaches and everybody who listens to me in French, I just keep saying the best thing you can do for your coaching career is to learn English so you can consume all the English content that exists. Because
for sure, yeah.
Obviously not downplaying the quality of what comes out of France, but just the sheer volume of the stuff you can find in English is just massive. And I really think that if you want to have, a long and productive career as a coach, and obviously continuing education is part of, just keep getting better and better. And I think you're greatly limited if you don't speak English.
Yeah, right? and especially producing content like yourself in English, whenever you have the opportunity, your audience is that much bigger, right? So I think it's important for a creator as well. So not necessarily just a coach. Yeah,
absolutely. What in rugby, what position did you play?
I was a tight end prop, so I was about 40 pounds or 20 kilos heavier than I am now. So it was and the thing is, I'm like, the weight I am now is that's what I played football at. So when the Canadian coaches approached me, they're like, hey, well, you don't have the skills to be a flanker or a backline or whatnot. They're like, you can be a prop. I'm like, well, what does that mean? They're like, you have to gain like 40 to 50 pounds. I'm like, oh my God. So that was probably the toughest part. But like the amount of eating I had to do was crazy. So yeah, it wasn't always enjoyable.
Once you start trying to put on weight for a sport, you understand that losing weight is the easy part.
It literally was, yeah. Like when I decided, I'm like, okay, it's done. Like I literally lost like I think 15 pounds in a month, and I'm like, man, that took me like 3 years to gain. So,
I know it's crazy. I was doing some weightlifting in BC, and I was 85, 86 kgs, and I thought, hey, you know what? I could just bump up to the 91 before or something like that. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna, eat, get an RP template, and then train. And man, I was working construction back then. I was painting houses, and I was just spending my whole day eating. It was like you wake up, you eat, you go to the job, you have a coffee break, you eat at lunch, you spend your whole time eating, you get off at work, you eat, and then you go and you train, and then you eat some more. It's like it's just all you do, man.
Yeah, huge commitment. And it's expensive too. Yeah.
It's crazy. Did you find any strategies that helped you, gain weight and do it well?
The thing is, when I moved over to Victoria, I was on a limited budget because I was getting funded by the Canadian National Program, which is like $1,500 a month, which is like nothing. And and that you have to pay for rent with that money too, and it was brutal. So like you kind of have to find ways of like the cheapest possible way to get food, and like usually that's with pasta or whatnot. But so I made some gains through my time there, but prior to the 2011 World Cup, there was about 8 of us who were invited to actually go to North Wales and play a season there in Colwyn Bay, which is like North Wales, because the Welsh Rugby Union was trying to develop the rugby culture in that region because it's really big in the south. So part of the agreement there is that they have to feed us, and so anyways, they like housed us like a block away from this like all boys rugby school, and like literally we got actually I think we had to cook our own breakfast, but for lunch and dinner it was like unlimited food. And so I was there for like 5 months, and I think I gained like, oh man, I want to say like 15 to 20 pounds in that. And they had an amazing gym there too. So I literally spent the entire day at this all boys school just working out and eating. So like my strength gains like went through the roof, and my weight just shot up. And so when I think the Canadian coaches were pleasantly surprised when I came back to Canada, they're like, "Holy, you're playing!" Like because I was on the cusp of whether or not I was going to be on the World Cup squad or not. But I came back like quite a bit heavier, quite a bit stronger, and like obviously a better rugby player. So they were pretty pumped about that. So,
what have been your best memories in your rugby career?
Oh man, there's quite a few, but I think the one that stands out, it would have to be the World Cup. And our first game, actually, we played against Tonga. And again, we're like the national Canadian rugby program isn't like a kind of a well-respected program, especially nowadays. Actually, it's kind of taking a little bit of a downturn. But even back then, we were kind of like thought as like, just the pushovers or whatnot. And because especially going to the 2011 World Cup, there wasn't a lot of pros. We only maybe had like maybe 4 or 5 pro rugby players, and the rest of us were just amateur. We're just all training together in Victoria here. So anyway, we played Tonga, which is literally the entire team's made up of pros, and we ended up beating them, and it was like so cool. And like we had such a good fan following there. Like there's a lot of fans that came down to New Zealand to watch us, and it was like, it was definitely a huge highlight in for the national program. Like I have a couple of highlights with like the pro program stuff, but that one will always stand out.
What about your experiences abroad, playing in France, playing in New Zealand? What did you take away from those times?
Well, I love the European culture for sure. Like just I definitely had like a pretty brutal learning experience when I first got there, because like coming from Vancouver, as you know, it's like go go go. Like you're just trying to like you're just getting things done like at all times of the day. So I get there, and also you have to set up a bank account, have to set up a medical, I have like 15 things I need to do. And so like we have training in the morning, training in the afternoon. So I'm like, okay, perfect. Well, we have like a 4-hour window in the lunchtime area where I can get these things done. But I had no idea that everything just closes down. Like nothing's open at lunchtime. Everyone's taking their 3-hour lunches. It's like, holy moly. So that was a huge learning curve, but I actually learned to enjoy it afterwards, and I really like that aspect about France. I'm sure I know it's similar in some other locations in Europe, but yeah, I like that, and I like the culture. Like unfortunately for me, I didn't really have the career I wanted to have there. Like I think that 1 year in La Rochelle really set me back, unfortunately, just through injuries and through just the relationship I have with my coach. But at the end of the day, I do really love that country, and I hope to one day I'll be able to take my family there, and we can all just have a nice vacation there and go see some old rugby guys. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's the same here in Switzerland, and it's something that I absolutely despised when I was a child. Because I remember I actually grew up in this apartment. We took this apartment over from my mom when we came back.
Yeah.
In my this is the bedroom where I grew up, which is, I don't think about it much, but it's always funny when I do. I just see myself sitting on the couch, looking out the window. We're on the 8th floor, so you see kind of the whole little town that we're in. Sunday afternoon, everybody was home. Nothing's open. Nobody wants to. Sorry about the mic. Nobody wants to go out and play. And it's just like, man, I wish someone would just go outside and do something. But everybody's with family, and that's something that I really didn't like when I was here as a kid. But then I moved to Vancouver, and everything's open all the time. And then I come back here, and I'm a little bit older. I'm not old. I'm 33, but come back with a kid, my wife, and it's like, you know what? It's actually really nice to be forced to slow down, and I'm still really bad at it. I mean, that's my problem. I have to take it down a couple notches. But when it's forced, when you have to, you know what? No, Sunday you cannot go and do all your shopping and all your errands because it's open. It's just, no, this is a day where you do not much, or you spend time with family. So like you said, I've learned to appreciate it as well. I think it's a very interesting dynamic between North America, Vancouver, Canada, and here, and that is one major cultural difference. And I think, again, depending on maybe your temperament and your age and where you are in your life, maybe one might work better than the other, right?
For sure, yeah.
So we have rugby. What you talked about injuries? What happened?
Oh yeah. Well, I can go through a couple of them. Like the one that has set me back the most, probably my back. I got a herniated disc, my L4, L5, and so when I was at La Rochelle, actually, like about halfway through the season, I started getting quite a bit of pain in my lower back. And anyways, I just thought I needed an adjustment through a chiropractor. So we had a team chiropractor. And anyways, after a game, he went to town on it. And needless to say, like it made it way worse, and he didn't know at the time, neither did anyone else, that I was actually herniated disc. So I ended up like that day or a day after, my right leg went completely numb. Like I had no feeling in my right leg.
Wow.
So anyway, they sent me to get an MRI, and it turned out I had a pretty bad herniated disc, and I was getting like really bad sciatica down my right leg, and so I had to get an operation done, in terms of like I got cortisone shots put into my back, which is like an anti-inflammatory drug for people who don't know. And I was just pretty much told to lay on my back for the next month and let it do its work. And it was really brutal. So, but then that's just something I'm gonna have to live with. Like I'm actually dealing with it right now. It's just kind of like the cortisone doesn't work forever. What it enabled me to do is like get the inflammation down, and then your job is then to strengthen your core and make that area around it stronger. So when the cortisone does wear off, it won't be affected by your herniated disc, or that's like at least the goal. And it really worked well for me. Like it did the job. But by the time I came back to wanting to play, it was near the end of the season. Coach hated me, and so that was that for that. And then in Agen, actually the World Cup 2015, or actually it was the game that we had a warm-up game right before, and I broke like 4 of my ribs in the scrum. So I had to miss the 2015 World Cup. And I did my knee, my knee right before then was a 2-month layoff. Did my ribs, which was like another 2 months, and I came back and I tore my bicep, like literally the game after that. So it was literally like 3 pretty bad injuries in a row. And at that point, I'm just like, man, I'm getting too old for this. Although I think I was 35, or I don't know how old I was. No, I was only 32 at the time. But I was just like, man, where's this going? Like anyway. So those are like the 3. That was like that one period of time where it was like really dark. Like I was like, because the thing is, you get injured and you want to get back, and so you work your butt off to try and get back and get better and whatnot. And then just literally the game after, twice in a row, was like, okay, injured again, you're off for 2 to 3 months. And it was brutal. So those are probably my 2 I guess I was pretty lucky with rugby. I guess I didn't have like crazy injuries. Like I did tear my bicep twice, broke some ribs, like broke some rib cartilage, concussions, and 1 knee. But I've seen much worse, and I'm lucky that I didn't. Nothing that's going to be lasting other than my back for the rest of my life. So.
So you went back to playing after, despite all those injuries, right? When you went back.
Yeah, I did. Well, that's the thing. It's just like injuries are just part of the game. Unfortunately, it's such a physical game. So the ones that like you look back on it, it's like, and I know it's an issue nowadays, like the concussions, like it's like the invisible injury. And I know I had my fair share. And when you're trying to tell a coach that you're not feeling well, or nothing's like seems right, and he looks at you, you look completely fine. That's the challenge with those ones, because a lot of guys I've seen, they play through it, and it ends up getting much worse. And next thing you know, they're like stuck in a dark room for months at a time just to try and get their brain right. So
I had what's his name, Ben, I forget. He's an ex-pro rugby player. He played for Wales, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was Wales, and same thing, like bad concussion on bad concussion, and that pretty much ended it for him. And like you said, it's not, and I'm not in rugby anymore, but I used to play. I did some SNC with the local club here when I came back, but I followed a course, and it was a medical a doc who works in, I think he works in Pro D2 in France, who came to give the course, and it was on, rugby safety, and concussion was a big part of the day. And he was adamant on, how important it was to talk about those things, and especially at the amateur level, because the pros now, they have those 10 minutes and they get to, see if the guy is fit to go back or not. But at the amateur level, you don't have any of that. And I've seen people, a guy that I know, Tiny, who used to be on the team, prop as well, and he was notorious for going very low in the tackle, and if the knee came at the wrong time, he would usually get it to the head. And I've seen him getting knocked out flat on his face, and then get back up and just keep playing, and people are kind of looking at each other on the sidelines like, should we do anything, should we? And it's so complicated, because you have, it's not from a health standpoint. It's like he should just come out and that should be it. But then you don't have enough numbers. We're going to lose the game. And then those things take over. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't really matter because it's someone's health and that has to take priority.
Yeah, we definitely have a problem of living in the moment and not actually thinking about the long-term effects, which I think they're doing a better job now, especially like with in American football and NFL. I mean, and when I was in France, there's no discussion about concussions. Like that wasn't a thing. And then I know that where there's another Canadian, Jamie Cudmore. He played for Claremont. He's like one of our biggest name rugby players in the past, and he had a huge concussion issues with Claremont. And he's a massive man, and I know that there's been time for, I think they're trying to say, hey, you should probably come up, but then we have him being like, no, I'm going back in. You're like, okay, just like, don't hurt me. But yeah, anyways, I know he had some issues with them going like when at the end of his career too. So which I think has probably prompted them to try and go that route of like going the right route of how they're going to treat them in the future or so. So, yeah.
Hopefully we get to do a little bit better for the kids coming up. It's a beautiful sport, and the last thing you want is to have an injury that is gonna not only potentially end your career, your ability to play the game, but then which can have such a tremendous negative impact on your life as a whole, right?
Oh, for sure. Your relationships, your just ability to get other things done, and your normal day activities. Yeah, stuff. I've seen some bad things with concussions, and like you said, it's going to hopefully not be a thing. It'll always be a thing, but like it'll be treated properly in the future. So. Yeah.
Do you still watch rugby? Do you still watch the game?
I don't. No, not really. Like if it's a big game or whatnot, and I know a guy that's playing, I'll probably watch it or at least watch some of it. But it was weird. Like I was actually, my last game I ever played was near Switzerland. It was actually in what's the town there on the border?
Lyon?
No, it wasn't Lyon. It was
Annecy.
I want to get the map out, but I don't want to do it on live. But shoot, I'm going to do it.
Go ahead, because it's close enough that I'll know where it is, and people that are listening in will probably know where it is as well.
Yeah. I forgot what it is, but
I
remember I was looking at the mountains right before the game, and because it's quite a mountainous city.
Pontarlier.
Grenoble.
Grenoble. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's close enough, I guess. So I was looking and for whatever reason, I was just, I don't even know what the question was now, but.
Do you still watch rugby?
Yeah. So, yeah, that was my last game, actually. I got injured. That's where I tore my bicep. And obviously, that was at the end of my career, going forward from there. And since then, I haven't really been like that interested in it. Like, I love the game, and don't get me wrong, but I think it just didn't end the way I wanted it to. So I have some bitter feelings of how my career went, and so I tend to avoid it a little bit. I did some coaching when I came back with a university in London, Ontario.
Yeah,
that's where my wife is from, actually, and so I did a little bit of coaching, and I wanted to get back. I actually still kind of wanted to play when I came back to locally, but my local club is actually in West Vancouver, and but so when I moved out to Poco, which is like a 40-minute drive. I just couldn't really commit to the commute. I didn't want to play for team out here, so it's a little bit. It was almost like cold turkey in a way, where I just like, all right, I'm on to new things now. I'm going, like, I have new interests, and which ended up being like what I'm sure we're going to talk about are the ergs. So
well, that's a perfect transition. Why the ergs? What drew you to them, and what got you to sit on one or to start pulling on one?
Yeah, I never really had a good relationship with it throughout my rugby career. I was first actually introduced to the rower back in 2010, and when I was in in Aurillac. Yeah. The fitness coach there, we're doing a spin class actually, and in the spin studio they had rowers. And he said, okay, well the group's too big. Some of you guys have to go on the rower. So I'm like, okay, I'll jump on the rower. Knew nothing about it. Hated it, and because obviously I had no idea what there was a proper technique, and probably had it all cranked up all the way up to 10. anyways, I thought, I'm like, this is really hard and it's not that enjoyable. So anyways, the next memory I have of using it as fitness was I think we used it a little bit in La Rochelle. It wasn't a staple, but then when I moved down to New Zealand, the fitness coach there, he used it for like a lot of the fitness
Yeah.
training. And the New Zealand type style rugby is like, it's not like French rugby where it's just, you know, bash them, crash, and maul, scrum. It's like, we're New Zealand. It's like, use your skills, use your fitness. We're gonna play like the beautiful game of rugby, the way it's meant to be, right? So,
Yeah.
and the way they play, your fitness needs to be like crazy. So, anyways, he got me on the rower there. I think that's where I rode my first 2K, although I still had no idea what I was doing. You got this other workout that I continued on for a long time was I still do it to this day. Actually, it's you run a mile, row 500 meters, run a mile, row 5, and so you do that 5 times. And I still do that today. Actually, although I supplement the running with a treadmill, but then I've now turned it into the assault bike. So, anyways,
Yeah.
that's my favorite workout of mine. But then after that, I got home and I got a job at the fire hall, and one of the guys, he challenged me. He's like, "Hey, I bet you can't do a 1K in under 3 minutes." I'm like, "Well, I bet I can." So that was literally it. Like, I did 1K, it was under 3 minutes, and then I started doing research on the rower and times and stuff. And next thing you know, I go on the internet and realize there's this huge community that is like dedicated around the 3 machines here. So, and anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, that 2K, what's a good 2K time? Oh, sub 6. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll train for that. And like, anyway, so I was able to do a sub 6 2K time and pretty little trail. Although I was really fit, it didn't take a whole lot of time to do it. But anyway, so that it just kind of progressed from there. And I had people reach out to me and say, "Oh, you should do this, or join this team, or enjoy this competition." So, anyways, that's how it started.
Yeah. So are you still the only person to have gone sub 6 on all 3 ergs, or are they?
From my understanding, I am. I think there's one guy. Well, I think there's like 4 or 5 guys I think that are capable of doing it.
I think what is it, Justin Farina from?
No, yeah, Justin. Yeah, Justin. He's done sub 6 on the rower. He got 608 on the ski.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm not too sure about his bike, but James Hall, Eddie Hall's brother.
Yeah, I follow him too.
He recently just got the world record on the rower for the 1K.
Yeah,
it was sub 240. It was crazy.
And he didn't. It's not like he trained for a long time for it either. It's
he literally built like a tank. Like, he's just super strong. He has that fitness where it's like, and he's actually an ex-rugby prop as well.
Yeah.
And he just has that fitness where he's able to kind of maintain that maximum threshold for 6 minutes, because he has a sub 6 on the rower as well, and a sub 6. He's the first guy to get sub 6 on the ski.
Right.
And I think he's going to be the next guy. I think he's going to just get the bike, because I think he'll be able to get the bike done pretty quickly. Yeah. That's the one that took me the quickest time without not a whole lot of training. Just it hurt, but it definitely hurts their legs. But yeah, I think he'll be the next guy that will do it. And I think he'll probably do it in the next month or so. That's my guess.
Yeah, and with the fitness he's built for the row, I mean, not that he didn't have the fitness before, as you said, he did some specific prep for it, and shout out to him, because that's a huge feat to go get those kind of numbers on any machine. Do you remember what your first 2K was? You talked about the 2K in New Zealand.
I think it was pretty decent. I think it was like a 624 or something like that, or yeah, I think it was around the 620s. Yeah. And I know the guys that were like, "Oh, that's good," and I'm like, I have no idea what does that mean?
Yeah. Do you, for reference, if I'm not mistaken, 6 minutes on all 3 ergs is 480 watts. I believe that is in the ballpark.
Yeah, I'm not really a watt guy, but I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, just to give for those who do speak in watts, it's a significant effort. Which one of the 3 was the hardest? The sub 6s.
The ski.
The ski, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I've only done it twice, and there's just something about the ski. It's a nasty machine, but it's like my favorite. So there's something about it where I'm not gonna say I enjoy the pain, but it's just like it's definitely a challenge. And just the movement. I just love the movement, and yeah, it was definitely the hardest. And I kind of kicked myself because I felt like when I did break the 6-minute mark on it, I was at my peak fitness, I guess form, I guess you could say.
Mm.
And I wish I kind of gave it another attempt to try and bring my time down, but it's one of those things like you strive for a goal. I hit it. I'm like, okay, I'm done with it. I just want to go move on to the next one. But I wish I kind of just stuck around a little bit and tried it again, because there's such that anxiety of just reaching that level, and then you don't care about anything else, I guess. I had the same thing when I wanted to do like 2 bench 100 kilos on the bench, like the 2 plates. And when I was like 15 years old or whatnot, and you can do like 1 plate and like all the small ones just up to it, but right when you put the 2 plates on, you can't do it. So you have that that same anxiety with the testing, right? So
yeah, the testing in and of itself is a challenge. In the training process currently, do you still use all 3? Do you have periods where you do more of 1 or 2, and then can you play around, or how's your yearly how is your training structured, if there is, or do you ebb and flow between challenges you want to go to depending on the machine? Or
yeah, like I don't follow a specific program. Like I kind of just do what I want, and then like what I feel. And recently, because I have a young child, a young boy, and like that's like definitely been quite a challenge. So like my energy levels have been like quite low as of late, like for the last year and a bit. So I've been kind of like just turning to the bike, just because I find it easy to sit down. You don't have to think about anything. Just pedal, sweat, burn some calories, and move on. But recently, I'm trying to get back because I think my life's going to get a little bit crazier in the next little bit. So I want to try and take advantage of having 1 kid for the next. So I think for the next like 5 months, I'll probably be going pretty hard on the ergs.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not like this week I got back on the rower. It's like my first time being on the rower for the last 3 months, because my back, and the main reason is because the World Rowing just announced a competition that's actually happening in Toronto, where they're trying to do like a multi-event, like it's actually at the same time as the World Rowing competition with the 5K, the 500 meter and the 2K. So they're going to do one where it's like just events that aren't normal, like kind of just intervals and stuff. So I'm going to try and go for that. So I need to do 2 rows this month that I need to train for. We had to qualify, So
do you know what they are already?
One of them is 3,333 meters. So that's around like a 10-minute row, like a max row. And then the next one is 7 intervals of 2.5 minutes and 30 seconds off. And that one's scored in 2 ways. The first score is on your first 2 minutes and 30 seconds and seeing max meters, and then, which is nasty. Well, it's nasty because the first rep, and then you have to do reps after that. So, and then the second score, I think, is going to be how many cumulative meters you did through the entire workout. So that one, I'm going to save that one for last. So I want to get this 3,000 one done, hopefully in the next week or 2. But I just got to get my back right. It's just hasn't been good. So yeah.
It's how do you manage that? Because the rower has to be the most unforgiving of the ergs when it comes to back and just the position that you're in. Have you found strategies to mitigate that, or
like again, things I wish I did when I was younger, but like just stretch and warm up. I'm not a big warm up guy. Just find it, like, I'm not saying a waste of time, but like time is limited. I just want to get right to it. So, and that's definitely come to bite me in the butt a couple times. Like I just, but anyway, so now like for the last like couple months, I like do a stretch every morning. It takes like 15 minutes, but like otherwise I can't do anything. I like literally can't bend over. And so like, that's like something I've been having to do. And like, usually I've been dealing with back stuff now for the last like, I don't know, almost 10 years now. So usually if it gets bad, it usually corrects itself within like maybe a couple of weeks. But this one has just been lingering around. So
Mhm.
I'm getting very frustrated and annoyed with it. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I messed up my back too, and it was definitely a combination of rowing like a maniac when I was doing too much on the side. We'd just come back from Switzerland. I did pretty much a year and a bit where I just focused on the rower, and I did quite a bit of it. I did one local competition in BC, and then I did the regional championships here when I got here, and then I wasn't working yet, so I spent 2 months, and then it was getting towards the end of the season. What is it, May, right? Where the Concept 2 season switches over. And I was like, okay, I need to try and beat my PBs on all the standard metrics, the meters, the times. And I was looking back now, and with the little that I've acquired since then in terms of how to train and how not to train, it was like, don't try to set 2 PBs a week every single week. That's just a bad idea. And there was this, and then I started a physical job, and I was getting up at I was getting up at 5, and then I was coaching rugby every evening at the field. And within 2 weeks, my back was like, not happening. And it lasted a while, and it was nagging for a long time. It's much better now, but it's still I now I can take some more time to fix it and take care of it. Do you find on the back stuff, does it affect your mood? Does it affect how you function during the day, or are you able to put that on the side?
Well, one thing I like, when I first ran into back issues, like before, I'm like, and you hear about people like, oh, my back's bad, I can't do anything. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do anything? Like, how bad can it actually be? Like, didn't understand. But like, man, if you haven't had back injury, like praise God or whatnot, just because it is like the worst. Like, so my first time that happened to me, like I couldn't do anything. Like, you literally, like, every movement is like pain, like throughout your whole body. Like, you try and lift your knee, you can't put your socks on, you can't do anything. So yeah, it definitely affects my mood. Like, again, I like at this point, like, I know how to manage it and whatnot, and like although as annoyed as I am with it, but like I can get through the day and whatnot. Like, the most pain I have is when I first wake up in the mornings. That's like, I feel like, man, how old am I now? Like, I guess this is what the means of like the effects of rugby. Then, like, man, I haven't played rugby for 6 years and it's still bugging me. But I just know it's just going to get worse from now. But yeah, it is a debilitating injury when it's really bad, and I do feel horrible for the people that literally have to deal with it on a daily basis. And I feel like I am lucky, although I am dealing with it, but it's not as bad as it could be. So
Yeah, you talked about using the bike quite a bit. That's the machine I've been turning to a lot because, like you said, it's very non-involved from a psychological standpoint, where the rower and the ski, we know that every stroke is going to matter in terms of how you move and the efficiency that you're going to bring with it. And if you just don't think about what you're doing, it's likely gonna trend towards not moving optimally, and you kind of have to be mentally involved in those machines, right?
yeah, for sure. Like, and that's the thing, is like, you can turn your mind off, you can watch TV, you can watch, like, I end up on Sundays, I usually just watch American football, and when I'm riding, because you don't really have to think about it. But yeah, well, and that's the thing with the ski. Like, the ski, I find though, it's almost like relaxing when I'm getting into a long piece. Like, I just get in like just that rhythm.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rower, there's no relaxing. It's just the one workout I do where there's maybe a little bit of relaxing is like a rate 20. So like every third second I'm taking a stroke.
Hmm.
And that's one I end up doing if I'm wanting like a chill row workout. But yeah, the rower, if you're going for it, there's no like taking a stroke off. It's like you're fully engaged. And that's the thing, is on the road, I can do 2 hours on the ski, I can do 2 hours on the bike. If I can barely do an hour on the road, just because it gets at my back. And
Yeah.
I don't think I've done like maybe 1 or 2 hour rows on the rower, and that's it. Like, I can't do anything more than that. And even after those, it was like I was wrecked for like a week.
When you're chasing performance or building up to a performance kind of focus on any of the ergs, what does your weekly training look like? How do you distribute your volume? your intensity? What does that usually look like?
Yeah, that's something that like I probably should be better at in terms of like properly planning a week or planning my effort levels in terms of optimizing my performance. But again, I haven't really studied nutrition or effort levels to the point where I should have of like what level I'm at the moment. So I kind of just go off of a whim of like how I'm feeling, and usually that is dictated by the amount of sleep I've had the night before. So yeah, like if I'm feeling good, like I'm ready to go. If there have been times where I'm like, hey, I know I'm doing a 2K on Friday, or I know I'm going to do a 5K on Friday. So like I made the Thursday, I'll probably take it pretty easy. But like up to that, like Wednesday, I'll probably be rocking hard. And like there's just something about like just, I want to get the work in, and I feel great afterwards. So, and like, I almost look at it as like the rest days is like a wasted day of being able to like improve.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about my job. Like I'm not in construction. Like I'm not doing a very physical job. So it enables me to like be pretty well rested and like not exert myself throughout the day. So I feel like I am pretty beneficial through that. But
Yeah.
I know like I have done construction. I have done drainage work where I'm digging holes all day, and the last thing I want to do is work out. So yeah, I feel pretty lucky that I'm able to, you know, if I'm going to focus and put 100% effort into one thing in the day, it's going to be my ergs, and it's going to be for maybe half an hour, and that's it. So
yeah,
I feel like I can be well rested and do it almost day after day that way.
You talked about long sessions on the row and the bike up to 2 hours. Is that, you know, do you do that weekly? Is that once?
No. Yeah, I'll try and do like an hour session on one of them once a week, like usually on like a Sunday. That's kind of like, so the way my program works. So I do kind of have a program. So the way my work schedule is, I work Tuesday to Friday.
Yeah.
So let's say my week starts Tuesday. So Tuesday I'll do like a Tuesday. So those 4 days, I'll do half an hour of work in the morning. Like first thing, I wake up around like 5:30. I go like pretty much straight down to where I am right now. Spend half an hour on the ergs, no matter, like depending on what I'm doing. Like obviously it's very difficult to go 100% effort at 5:30 in the morning, especially if it wasn't a great sleep. But I try my best to do it because I know that's like where I benefit in terms of progression the most. So I'll get the work done for half an hour. Usually it's around half an hour workout. Have my meal, go to work, and then luckily with my job, I'm able to work out at my job as well. So then I'll do my weights in those 4 days as well. So usually on the first day will be like a push day. Second day is a pull day. Third day is my legs, and then fourth day is like a entire body workout. And then Saturday, Sunday, Monday is just strictly for the ergs. Like I'll probably try and get an hour workout in on those 3 days. So probably one or two of them will be pretty high intensity, and the other one will probably be pretty to try and keep my heart rate at around, I guess, the zone 2 or whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What, in terms of, you know, working on the different ergs, have you, with all your experience, you know, going after different PBs on all the machines, do you find that what two machines have the best transfer from one to the other that you can feel? Like, does the bike carry well into, you know, the rower? Does the ski help you rowing? What have you felt over the years that maybe allows you to have an idea about that?
That's a tough question. Like to me, the ski's upper body for the most part, obviously the bike's lower body, and then the rower is just everything. So like I found like when I spent like maybe a couple of years ago, I was like really into the ski and like doing like every 60% or 80% of my workouts were on the ski.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like didn't do a whole lot of rowing, but I found I went back to the rower for like maybe a competition or whatnot, and I didn't lose a thing just because of the work that's been on, because the ski is so difficult that your ability to just the pain thresholds and the what you're putting your body through, I feel that transfers over really well to the rower. Where actually recently now, because I've been spending so much time on the bike, And now I'm like, hey, I need to get back into it. And like I was pushing myself on the bike. I did a sub 16 10K like I think maybe a month ago, which was like one of the goals I had. But anyways, I've now switched back to the rower and the ski to try and bring up my numbers again. And like I've definitely dropped off quite a bit. So like I have a lot of work to do. Whereas I didn't find the same thing when I went from the ski to the rower.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
When we talk about technique, talk us through what you focus on. I'll start with the ski, and then we'll talk about the rower. What for you are the most important parts of skiing well? Because we see not everything and nothing across the world, and I'd probably say that, especially if you look at CrossFit as a sport, that is probably the machine or the movement where people have the most efficiency to gain. And yeah, so what does an ideal ski stroke look like from your perspective?
So like I love studying film. Like I love like watching movements and like seeing where efficiencies can be gained. And one thing I love watching is actually Olympic weightlifting, because I used to love, when I was playing rugby, I loved power cleans and whatnot, and I'd always try and figure out how can I get better. And when you watch like the people at the Olympic level, like literally how efficient the bar moves, and like in terms of there's no wasted movement.
Yeah.
So the way, anyways, I kind of adopted that same thinking towards the ski, because then you look at some of the ski techniques out there, and it's just like it's crazy. Like you have the swimming, like the one that gets me is a swimming technique with the big arms, and like it's like, what are you thinking? Like, how do you think that's actually good?
Yeah.
So anyways, the way I look at it is like straight up, straight down, and like you try and and so there's no wasted movement. You want to reach as high as you can and come down straight, and then just keep that line, that plane is without moving your arms in any inefficient way. So I've tried to adopt it or look at it that way. And then like again, I have like there's again the ski, like with the rower, I feel like there's one technique that's the efficient way of doing it, and then the bike obviously there's only one technique, you just move your feet. But with the ski, I think there's like maybe like, I don't know, there's quite a few different techniques that work for different people. Like you look at the technique of what a cross country skier does. It's quite short and sharp, and like the stroke rate's quite high. And that's the proper way to use it on the skis. But I don't think it transfers very well over to the machine in terms of being able to maximize power and speed.
Especially on the short stuff, I would assume.
Yeah, well, on the short stuff, the people's rates get up pretty high. But if you look at, so for example, we'll talk about James Hall again, who has the world record in both the 1K and the 2K. He just does monster strokes where it looks like he's going to rip the thing off the wall. But it does not look like any type of cross country Olympic skier would use, because it's like just big monster strokes, and that's kind of the way I approach it as well. Like I don't have the upper body strength that he has, or like as other guys have, but I just find that I'm able to use, if I'm able to do less strokes, that I'm using less energy through a period. So like usually for my 30-minute piece, my stroke rate will be around like a 37, maybe 38 if I'm trying to go max distance. Whereas then you look at some other people who are doing like 42 to 43, even 44, and then you start doing the math in terms of how many more strokes they're doing over a 30-minute period. So like 4 times 30 was at 120 more strokes that they're doing that I don't have to do. So I look at it that way as well, just to try and be efficient with my energy output too. So again, I'm sure we could chat about ski technique for literally hours in terms of, and debate about it in terms of what's the best. But at the end of the day, there's so many different body types, and people don't have, like, I'm pretty fortunate. I have a pretty strong upper body, so I can get away with the less strokes to generate the power I need. Whereas some people, they need to up the stroke rate to get the same output. So I think it's a debate that'll always go on in terms of what is the best technique. I think it's all reliant on the individual.
Yeah, and but I think what you said at the beginning is 100% correct. There's one way to row, but then there's multiple ways to ski. I did a little online. I created a little free online course on the Concept 2 ergs and the log online and all that stuff, because I think they've done such a great job. Like the infrastructure is fantastic, right? You can log all your things on your phone. You can have all your meters on the computer. You can share your logs and stuff. It's a fantastic ecosystem. And for example, CrossFit, which is a world that I work in quite a bit, they don't know anything about it. They just sit on it and they pull like there's no tomorrow. But there's no consideration of, hey, that's actually a great training tool and we can use it better and then benefit from it. And in that context, I actually pulled up, I think it was your video, the 30-minute record that you have or had.
Oh, for the ski?
The ski. I had yours, James Hall's, I think it was 2K. I had Justin's, I think it was a 5 or a 10K, because I think he was better. He had a PB on the longer stuff at some point. I took Phil's 100-meter and kind of broke down the technique, the video of each one. And like you said, there's definitely multiple ways to go about it. And depending on your height, I guess, has a big impact, right? How tall you are. I mean, most of the guys that pull big numbers are pretty tall. It seems to help to have that almost upper body weight to help you, catch that tension with the machine. But then, the distance of each stroke and then the size of it, Justin is quite different than, I guess, most of you guys, if I were to compare.
Yeah, Justin's a purist. He goes the way that it should be done. But I've tried to like, again, I love Justin, and he's been one of the reasons why I've been able to progress in this Concept 2 world, because like he has an amazing program that he offers his clients or whatnot, and is all specified with ergs and whatnot. And he's kind of taken me on. I row for his virtual team and whatnot. So but he's a purist when it comes to the technique in terms of how it should be done and how it can be transferred properly over to real world utility. But yeah, I don't argue with him about that. Him and James Hall love arguing about it though. But it's ongoing battle.
They can, at the level that they are, they can just argue about it, and it's good for us to learn a thing or two. Since you mentioned it, I highly recommend Justin's Garage Athlete program. I was on it for a bit over a year as well when I was on the rower, and it's that as well, like the community, right? That he's built around the ergs, and in this bigger community, this larger community that you were talking about, the Concept 2 world, which I was completely oblivious to until I sat on a rower and started looking online. But it's incredible how many people actually train on those machines, and then we're all going through the same stuff, right? And that really helps. Just kind of, even though you're not together, you're doing the same thing. It's a really great community.
Yeah, there's all the cool terminology they use, or things that they'd be writing about. Like I had no idea what they're talking about. Like well, the thing is, like when I were on the rower, like I'd have it on the screen that showed no data. It was just like the speed and time. And anyways, then you almost get to appreciate the numbers, and you get to appreciate all of the data that these machines. Because I'm like a math guy. I love numbers, so like I actually really love just like one of the things I love doing is we call them at least I call the OCD screens, where I try and do a piece where I try and get every number exactly the same throughout my 30 minutes or my hour or whatnot. So that's something I love doing. It just keeps it interesting when you're going through like an hour workout or whatnot. But the community is super cool. And like HD, like I'm like, what does HD mean? But because I always see like, oh, this is the worst workout I did in HD. Well, that means that like I learned it means handle down, because he literally quit. So like those are words I don't like using, but I've definitely experienced them. So it's good.
Yes, there's talk about the mental component of those max efforts on the ergs, because if you're not 100% in it, it is so easy to just stop. And especially when you're going to be right on the razor's edge of what you can or maybe can't do. Do you do anything on that aspect of things? I remember on the rower, I knew that counting to 10 was the only thing I had to focus on. I was literally just counting my strokes to 10 over and over and over and over again. And if my mind deviated from that, it was bad news, and I was probably close to quitting. And that was the only thing that took me through. Did you have any strategies? What do you put in place to stick to it?
Man, the games that you play, like, so like again, like being in front of people makes it a lot easier because you don't want to fail in front of people. But like, so I work out by myself. I'm in my gym by myself, and it's like so difficult not to quit when there's no one watching. Because at the end of the day, you're like, well, no one would know I quit, like only me. But I think it's just that you don't want to disappoint yourself. Yeah, the mental games it's always ongoing, and like that's one of the things I love with these machines. Because I feel like you're improving your health, but you're also improving your mental fortitude in terms of being able to get through the stuff that sucks. And
Hmm.
again, like you're saying, the games, like like it's yeah, like I always look at it like, okay, 3 minutes down to 1 minute equals this many strokes. I'll count this many strokes. Like you end up playing all these games in your mind just to try and like, oh wow, that like a minute just went by. I didn't even think about it, but um, yeah, there is. It's crazy what it goes through your mind. I think so. My biggest mental block was the 5K on the ski. Like I
Hmm.
attempted it maybe like I swear a dozen times, and I would quit every single like around 3,500 meters, like with only maybe 5 minutes left. I just quit. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And
What? Why?
it just because it was so difficult, and like I had a goal, like I wanted the world record, like I can obviously do it without going, but like I wanted the world record, and so I had to go, and I knew which pace I needed to hit.
What's the
And
world record on 5K?
15:55,
Wow. Yeah.
15 minutes 55 seconds, yeah. So it took like quit after quit, and so and what I do is I wear a heart rate monitor, and one thing that always messes with me a little bit is when I'm in a workout and I look down and I see my heart rate. I'm like, oh my god, it shouldn't be that high. So like that sometimes gets me going. I'm like, oh god, I got to slow down, but obviously I can't slow down. Like I'm going to pass out, or like I think my
Yeah.
heart's going to explode. But so for that workout, when I eventually beat it, I took tape. I taped over where it shows where my heart rate is, because I still wanted to see what my heart rate is throughout the workouts. But
Yeah.
I taped over it, put a piece of tape, and I went for it. And I wasn't able to see my heart rate, which actually, so I completed the workout and got it done. And then I took it off, and I'm like, oh, and I looked at what my heart rate was. I'm like, oh, thank God I taped it, because I was literally like, I think the highest I've had my heart rate recorded on these machines, I think it's like 183. It was
Yeah.
literally 183 for like the last three splits. So like for a good like 6 minutes, which
Yeah.
I shouldn't be doing. So anyways, so that was one way I got around like the mental stuff. You'd have to come up with these, I guess, tricks, but yeah, it's
It's funny. I had a very similar mental block on the rower about the heart rate. I knew that if I went above, I think it was above 185. And keep in mind, for people listening, everybody has a different max heart rate, so it's not about who has the highest heart rate. Uh, it's not a valuable game to play. But
no.
anyway, I knew that if I was over 185, I was really gonna be hurting. And oftentimes when I saw that number, I would panic and I would usually slow down or stop.
Yeah.
And not because I felt in danger or anything. It's just, yeah, I just knew how much suck it was going to be in that area. And just like, yeah, same as you said, just I just couldn't. And then I remember trying to train myself to see that number and be comfortable with it. And be like, okay, I'm gonna do my session, and I know I'm gonna go there, and I'm gonna tolerate it because it's fine. It's just my heart rate, but those things that can come in the way and keep you from doing what you want to do.
Oh yeah, it's just an ongoing battle, and that's the thing is like it's nice knowing when you do see that number and you're like, oh man, I just made it like 10 minutes at that level, so I know I can do it. And then again, like I was talking with sleep, like there's some days I'll do a workout and I'll see my heart rate maybe like get to like 160, and then another day I'll see it get up to like high 170s. It's like, what is the what's the common denominator here? Like and it's usually, to me, it's sleep, is rest, and like how
Yeah.
rested you are going into it. So that's where I'll know where I needed, like, okay, maybe I should tomorrow I'll like kind of go easy just to try and get my body back to where I want to be able to get these big sessions in. So um yeah, but yes, the one saying I love, when I got it from Nick Barry's, another fitness guy down I think in Texas, is like, embrace the suck. So, and that's literally and these things suck when you're going, but in a good way. So
Yeah.
yeah, by benefiting, like obviously if you don't overdo it, but if you're able to kind of figure out what your plan is, and want to progress on these things. And just got to embrace it, and it'll be over, and you'll be happy when it's done. But yeah, just
there's no way around it. I asked you which one of the 3 sub 6s was the hardest. Which one on each machine? What's the hardest workout that you've done on each one?
I think the hardest. Yeah, the hardest. There's 2 workouts. I love. They're interval workouts. The one workout I used to do all the time. I want to start getting back into is golf. It's the 1 minute on, 1 minute off for 18 reps. Yeah. And you try and there's some. I got it off the internet actually, just in terms of like, okay, if you hit this many meters, you get a score of like -2 or +1 or whatnot. So, anyways, that one's pretty tough because it like, especially on the ski, is like, okay, when you're going through it again, these are the games you play with yourself. It's like, okay, the first 3 are pretty easy, and then you're like, okay, that's 3 down, 15 to go. Like, wow, 15 is a pretty big number. And then actually, okay, we're going to just do, okay, we're going to get next 3 done. So, okay, 6 done. Okay, that's like a 2K done, and I got 2 more of those. Like, man, that's a lot of 2Ks. Like, anyways, so you end up playing these like mental games with yourself for like literally 36, because it's a 36-minute workout.
Yeah.
And by the time, then it gets to the point where usually that middle block of 6 is pretty difficult, and then that last 6 is like you're just like literally just hanging on, just trying. Because like again with me, I like trying to get the same meters every rep. So I usually pick a pace. I try and stick with it. And then actually recently I posted one. I couldn't do it. Like I just couldn't hang on. So I ended up going down. But I try to keep the same meters on that. But it was still like so hard.
Yeah.
And, but anyways, yeah, that one's a fun workout. And then 500 meters with 1 minute rest is another one I like doing. I wouldn't say I like doing, but I know it's super difficult, and I feel like that one's a good indicator of what your 2K is.
How many reps will you do?
Like 8
okay.
8 reps. So if you like do 500 meters, 1 minute rest for 8 reps, and if you're and pick a pace, and if you're able to pick that pace, I find that's a good indicator of where your 2K is at. So that one will be like, I'll try and rip that one out a couple of times leading up to a 2K to see if I'm able to hold like a sub 6 pace, and then I'm like, and if I can get that done, I'm like, okay, I know I'm there. So
yeah, it's interesting when you have those. I remember a prep one that Justin had, which was, I think it was like 500 1 minute, or 530 seconds, 530 seconds, and then 1250 or something like that. And yeah, and you had to, so it's a little bit more than your 2K pace in total distance, and there's not much rest at all, but it's just the first 200 just put you there, and then you just have to complete more than half of your 2K. And if you get to the end, that usually means you can pull the whole thing. But
he's designed some really good workouts with regards to like ones that like almost replicate the workout without doing it.
Yeah.
And if you're able to maintain that pace at your goal pace, and that it's a pretty good indicator where you're going to be at. So yeah, he's good at that.
I like those very much. Man, it's been a lot of fun chatting. Thanks for coming on. What are your, so you said you got that competition in Toronto coming up that you're going to try and line up for?
Yeah, so I think that's in February. So yeah, I got the month to qualify for it. So yeah, I got to get those workouts done. I'm not really looking forward to it because like I'm not where I need to be, just because I haven't been spending much time on the board. But yeah, we'll give a couple hard weeks of training here and see if I can pull some decent numbers for those 2 tests and qualify. And
where can people find you on online if they want to follow? Because you regularly post your workouts and some other content. Where can people find you?
Yeah, like I thought I was going to go down that creator or influencer route a couple of years back, but I realized how much work it is, and I can only imagine. I don't envy you of how much work you're putting in. I try it. I'm like, oh man, that's not for me. So, but anyway, so I had my normal account on Instagram there, and then my friends just started complaining that they don't want to look at erg screens anymore. So I made a new account that it's called Next Level Athlete. spelt a bit weird, no vowels, but that's why I just post workout stuff there, and so keep my friends happy, so I don't have to look at that screen. So they have no idea what they mean. So
Yeah. Those screens, for those who spend time on the ergs, those screens mean everything to us.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that means work. That means work. That means I accomplished something in the day. So yeah, it's
That's it. I'll definitely put your link in the description for people to go follow you. All the best. Good luck with those 2 tests coming up. I wish you all the best sleep that you can get,
thanks,
and
Sean. Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
some solid training. And we'll definitely be looking out for your future posts. Either way, it was a pleasure to have you on, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man, it's pleasure talking to you. If you come back to visit your wife's family, you got to hit me up, and we'll get some workouts in.
Definitely. That'd be a pleasure. Take care,
Awesome.
Jason.